Good day, everyone, and welcome or welcome back to those of you who have joined us across these 3 wonderful days of the Shared Services and Outsourcing Week Digital Americas Online Conference. My name is Rochelle Hood, and on a daily basis, I have the pleasure of serving as SSON's Global Head for Customer Analytics and Research. But what's really most exciting for me is that this week I once again get to return to the digital stage as the chairwoman for this year's event. 3rd year in a row that it's running, and when I say it gets bigger and better all the time, this morning I was excited to learn that we reached over 900 registrants for this event. So it shows you the interest in both of the speakers, the content, and also the opportunities that digital delivery provides for you. We have it across 5 days. We now have 22 different sessions that we're delivering to you, both live, and those will all be available for you as resources to take on demand, to share in town hall meetings, to help support your business cases, and for any presentations that you might do or discussions with your teams and industry colleagues. So with that, a bit of conference notes out of the way. I also will say that on Friday, for any of you who miss any of the sessions or you just want to recap and maybe have to write a report and come back, I'll be doing my chairwoman's remarks, giving some highlights and summaries from the entire week. That will happen at 11:45 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Friday the 17th. And in that session, you'll also learn about more resources and some special discounts that you get only from being here for when we transition back to in-person events. And we hope that you can join us for the Shared Services Week in-person Americas Conference, which will be in Orlando as planned in August, unless otherwise diverted by something called COVID. So with that out of the way, let me walk you through a couple of quick logistics and then welcome our exciting speaker to the stage. First of all, on your audience screen on the left-hand side, there's a Q&A box. You'll use this in 2 ways. If you have any technical questions, you have questions related to the conference as a whole, put that information in there. My colleague Ashley is with us from London today, and he'll be happy to get right back to you. But also, this is how you're going to engage early and often. I am so thrilled to have had our speaker here today. Use this as an opportunity to engage with him, figure out your questions, put some comments in, learn anything you might want to know about patents and trademarks and everything about IT in between. But please do take an opportunity to engage. It really does enrich these sessions. And speaking of our speaker, there is this wonderful warm smile on the right-hand side of the screen so that you can see that. Also, if you click that little down arrow, you're going to see the really rich and robust and very impressive background that he has across several different industries, across different sectors, and now specifically within the public sector, which brings a lot of information and wealth to all of you. But the conversation doesn't end here. He is a connection I know all of you are going to want to have, so do use the opportunity to click on the social button and connect with him on LinkedIn. Keep the conversation going even after we close the digital doors. And speaking of keeping things going, besides the great presentation and discussion we're going to have today, we have 3 things for you. First of all, you might have seen some of my LinkedIn posts where I wanted to celebrate the fact that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office recently celebrated the 10 millionth patent. There was a commemoration for that. There's all kinds of really cool facts that goes with that. And maybe, somewhere there might be some trivia on that. So please be sure to take that available. We're going to see a video here, but I know you're going to go, oh, this is so cool. Let's play this back for all sorts of people. I mean, what a cool thing to do when you're having one of those little virtual stand-up meetings in your social distancing work-from-home environment. So play that back for your colleagues and friends, and I've given you a little link to be able to do that. And then when you always think about how do you find people and what's another way of networking and building connections, and I will tell you the story of how did I find Jamie. I was reading the Wall Street Journal, as I love to do, and I saw this great article that talks about CIOs sharing their priorities for 2020. Interesting that what it looked like then versus what it looks like now. And so from that, I wrote him saying, hey, loved what you said there. And he wrote back, and now he's with us here on the digital stage. So with all of that background out of the way, Jamie, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the digital stage. Please say hello to the audience, and now over to you.
Thank you so much, Rochelle. It's very great to be with the audience right now, virtually, as we hit this new vision of how to work and how to telework, how to remotely work. It's amazing that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has been doing this for the last decade as part of normal operations. And what do I mean by that? We have over 8,000 patent examiners and over 800 trademark examiners who every day get up in their home, walk down to their home office, and telework as a matter of normal operations. So when we went to the new ways of working now, where everybody's teleworking, it was merely a volume issue with us. And so now we hit an all-time high last week of 14,600 simultaneous VPN connections into our infrastructure. So we are pumping on all cylinders and really running this engine hard, and we're having a great time of it, registering trademarks and awarding patents. So I got to say, it's a great time for the USPTO. I can't wait to get into all of the different things that the PTO is doing, but as such, I'd like to give a short video of what we're all about. Rochelle, over to you.
All right, so here's a video that I promised you. It will come up in your media player. If you want to make it full screen, just hit the full screen on the right-hand side, and here we go.
It was the summer of 1787, and the Founding Fathers had gathered in Philadelphia to address an ambitious plan. George Washington presided over this constitutional convention, which made a number of far-reaching decisions that continue to guide our nation to this day. The framers had many disputes as to what the Constitution should contain. However, there was no dispute with respect to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, also known as the Patent and Copyright Clause. The Congress shall have power to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. These simple yet remarkable words established the U.S. patent system. And in 1790, less than 2 years after the ratification of the Constitution, George Washington signed the first U.S. patent grant to Samuel Hopkins for an improvement in making potash and pearl ash. A patent is truly a significant document both for the inventor and the public which enjoys the benefit of the discovery. The patent provides the right to the inventor to exclude others from making, using, selling, or importing their invention without their permission. It also clearly reflects their creativity, their ingenuity, dedication, and hard work.
In the last 200 years, the patent cover has undergone over a dozen design changes, though in the last century, the design has only changed twice. We looked to a lot of the historic patent designs for inspiration, though I quickly realized there was not a lot of information out there, and we really had to turn over some rocks in order to gather enough examples for us to work from. Some of the best examples we found were from the 19th century. These were incredibly intricate, ornate documents from a bygone era. They looked like what you'd expect to see on currency or stock certificates, and the designs really conveyed the value of what they represented. Looking at these historic designs, it became clear that what we created would have to convey that same sense of value. A team of USPTO designers combined efforts to create the new patent cover. I asked each member of the team to design an improvement to the existing patent cover, a classic version inspired by some of the historical examples, and an anything-goes, clean sheet of paper approach. As designers, a lot of what we work on comes and goes very quickly. So to be able to work on something of such historical significance is a once-in-a-career opportunity. These patent covers will persist for generations in museum collections, in libraries, on the walls of an inventor's great-grandchild. That's something we're all very proud of.
Well, Jamie, I have to say, if that doesn't give you goosebumps, I don't know what will. I know you and I have talked about when we spent some time together at one of the defense contractors, and I shared with you one of the most impactful things for me as they welcomed me to the organization was walking down the hall with all the patents that they had earned. So thank you very much for the video, and thank you very much for inspiring us to want to go out and get a patent. But let's hear more about the Office of the CIO and how you make that all work. Jamie, back to you.
Thanks a lot, Rochelle. In effect, the CIO is responsible to ensure that we enable all of those patents to be awarded and the trademarks to be registered. So we're all about creating business value for the businesses, trademarks and patents. You'd be happy to know, too, that not only do we register trademarks and award patents, but we also run U.S. courts within our building for the trials and appeals that happen with patents and trademarks. So we actually have an office court operation as well. One of the big things that we're doing with the CIO is ensuring that we not only stabilize, but we also modernize our IT systems to give our examiners and the general public the best and latest tools available so that we can award and register quicker and cheaper and faster. So there's a lot of efforts underway right now to include what I've termed the better, cheaper, faster version of the CIO. As I stated before, not only do we have 8,000 patent examiners and 800 trademark examiners, but total employees at the USPTO exceeds 13,000. So we do have a lot of support staff in that number. Look at the demand growth right there. We reached a new high of 660,000 applications in FY 2019. And our trademark applications are also increasing in fiscal 2019. So we have a lot of work to be moving forward at the CIO. As I mentioned before, we have three major strategies. We need to stabilize our critical systems. We need to modernize and move out to the cloud. And we've created a new way of working within the CIO shop to include Agile and DevSecOps. What we're trying to create is the ability for product teams to work in an agile fashion and get these new functions and enhancements to our tools out to the examiners and to the general public better, cheaper, and faster. What we found out is we need to retool some of our employees on the DevSecOps best practices. And in fact, we've taken the whole organization and went from a project-based PMO type management style to a new product category and product-based management style, where we had before about 158 projects. We now have 30 products along 4 product lines. Those product lines include patents and trademarks, obviously, and the common businesses like finance, HR, travel, etc., and then the IT. So those are your 4 product lines. So there's about 8 products per product line. In doing that and moving to a product-centric organization, we've had to shift the culture. And we're trying to push the accountability down to the proper level within the product lines. This requires new tools and practices. And we've actually had to enforce and ensure that our cybersecurity is locked down to the point where we take all the legacy applications and ensure that any modernized efforts are very safe and secure as well, because we are operating with some of our nation's top secrets. As you can see in this slide, Here are our 30 products and our product catalog. If you note, there's two demarcations at the top with the patents and the trademarks, and then common services in the enterprise business product line and the infrastructure product line on the bottom. These represent our product line leads and our lead product owners in all of the different facets in the patents and trademarks business-centric environment. What we're doing is we're modernizing all these efforts from the old monolithic, centralized, and tightly integrated applications into loosely coupled, cloud-native, microservice-based applications. We need to decouple the old and make sure that whatever we put in and deploy in the new can be ripped out. The only thing we can guarantee in the future is change. So because of that, we're going to ensure that any technologies we put in right now can be pulled out and replaced later on. Our modernization strategy is very simple. We need to stabilize and secure the environments. Then we need to refactor what we can, and we need to integrate across the board to ensure that we have common services. One of the things about the integration to make sure that we're having a common understanding then is for the product lines to cooperate and collaborate in that new agile DevOps environment. You'll see that in order to do that, we're going to have a new contract strategy, because you're only as good as the vendors you can bring to bear. And so because of that, an IDIQ stands for an indefinite delivery and an indefinite quantity contract. That's a government term. But in effect, instead of going across the lines in different functional components like development, infrastructure, ops and maintenance, cyber and testing, what we're going to do is we are going to let contracts in a product fashion. So your product may be as simple as you can see in product C, only comprising two of those functions, maybe being infrastructure and ops maintenance contract for common services across all products. Or it could be a task order that includes all the functions, and we hire someone to come in and maybe do a software as a service play. We're moving from the old to the new over the next 6 months. We're about halfway through our year-long planning and strategy sessions. In fact, right now, we're formulating our budgets to ensure that we can hit this new contract strategy. The goal, of course, is to have better, cheaper, and faster contracts. What we're trying to do is put the accountability again where it exists best at the product line, making sure that the product owners can deliver value to the business, not just mere functions, but real things that are required and needed that you can measure in time and money. So knowing that, one of the things that we see a lot of potential in is artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, it's funny, I've been doing artificial intelligence for over 30 years, and the fact of the matter is I still haven't met Mr. Singularity. The matrix really just doesn't exist. But there is a lot of great machine learning algorithms out there that can be used to our advantage. One of the great things about machine learning is you can actually train the algorithms now to become better and more precise. What we're doing in that regard, we have a varied approach to our machine learning engagements. We have a span of maturity from very mature algorithms to very nascent and just brand new algorithms. We're doing such things as patent classification and patent search and image search and fraud detection for the trademarks folks. So there's a lot of different things that we can do and bring to bear in what I was talking about before, bringing those new tools to have the examiners and maybe even have the public help out in ensuring that you can get a patent quickly and you can register a trademark accurately. Everything is dependent upon our data. He who has the best data wins. We have an obligation within the USPTO to be both very tight and very secure with the data that's entrusted to us. And then once that data becomes public, once we do award or register, we have to ensure that the rest of the world knows of this new intellectual property. I will say at this point, it's always good to remind folks that patent and trademarks are only 2 of the 4 different intellectual property factors to consider. The other 2 are copyright, which belongs to the legislative branch in the Library of Congress, where the Register of Copyrights exists, and then under the FBI for trade law. So if we have any problems with people stealing our corporate intelligence and intellectual property from our corporations or even small businesses, we get the FBI involved to ensure we enforce the right intellectual property throughout the world. And that's the trade law part. So again, the 4 components of IP include copyright, trade law, patents, and trademarks, just to make sure that we have a good understanding of all the different aspects. They all depend upon the data, and that's why this slide is so important. We do have an enterprise data strategy and governance model that we are trying to create with big data analytics. Putting them together with machine learning, we can glean out nuggets of information that haven't been there before. So we will be putting those out in the future, allowing not only people inside, the examiners, but also the public to participate in some of these analytics. You never know what we can crowdsource in the future to make us all better in intellectual property. But we're going to have to make sure that it's secure and only those people who are allowed to actually get it. How are we going to reach the finish line? I'm pushing a huge culture shift. And that culture shift includes the ABCs of agility. Act now, be bold, and simplify. And I was told by my kids, but Dad, simplify doesn't start with a C. I said, yeah, but you'll never forget it. So the fact of the matter is I have ABCs going out there, and I just want it to be that simple. Act now, be bold, and simplify. And so with that, I was hoping to take some questions and answers, unless, Rochelle, you had something else that we needed to do.
Well, what I would like us to take as many questions from the audience as possible. They're a little shy today. They're just starting to type some of them in. So what I would like to do is continue some dialogue between you and I while we're waiting the audience to submit some more questions. Because some questions came up for me. I do love that ABC, so hats off to your kids for notifying the C, because I definitely will not forget that now. One thing I thought, Jamie, when you were talking about analytics and what you're looking to do with it going forward, I wondered if you have been examining some of the trends that exist right now. So pre the current environment we're in, but just meaning that we're in an economic environment where startups are rampant. You watch IT Crowd or any of these shows. That is our life now. That didn't used to be that way. Things came from big companies. They're the ones that funded R&D. All of that occurred, and innovation happened in that type of environment. And now we see that it's happening in a garage, and it's now coming to bear that something that started with that is now something part of our daily lives. Have you seen that translate over into patents and trademarks in terms of the fact that we're in this environment of startups innovating things, and are they early in the gate to come and apply for patents? Or what has the correlation been between what you're seeing in your office and how our economic focus has, and a lot of our innovation has been driven by startup type companies versus big enterprises?
Yes. In fact, what we've seen on our applications and filings confirms your assumption that many of the startups are just small startups. That's it. They're not the major corporations. Now, that doesn't mean to say that corporations aren't also putting in and filing applications. Of course they are. But we've seen the majority of new startups and small businesses submitting these applications, and they're spurring a lot of great economic activity. The whole thing about economic activity and investment from private equity and the venture capitalists is the fact that if we have a patent pending, we believe the sooner we can get that awarded or rejected, the sooner we can release that money for people to actually develop and move forward on their ideas. So we take it as a personal goal and our duty to get those awards or rejections out as quickly as we can. The same thing goes true with registration of a mark. A trademark is very important. You need to put that forward. And so many small businesses need to differentiate and create a core value to their customers based on their branding. And we have a solid obligation to ensure that branding can be defended in court and no one takes advantage of, grandma's cookies with raisins or whatever it might be. The fact of the matter is that's where the differentiation comes, and that's where economic activity and competition can come into place. So it's a full approach to that whole concept of making it in the garage, being able to protect it, and then either developing it with venture capital or selling your idea or licensing it. I love watching the Shark Tank. I think everybody has that, you're just drawn into it. And so often, one of the first questions that they'll ask is there a patent pending? It's a very important part. Is your idea protected, and can I invest in that? So yes, we see that all the time in the venture capital and private equity firms.
So I thank Mark Cuban and the gang if you dial in today, and I hope that you are. Thank you very much for being a free advertisement for the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and sending folks that way by asking that question. And while I'm smiling that I say that, and I too love the Shark Tank, I do think it is a time that it helps people think through the fact that you don't know what the vision of this product is going to be later on, and if you don't protect that up front, it will no longer be your vision, it will be somebody else. So it's a critically important thing that's when everyone's just trying to get product out the door and code written and those kind of things, that perhaps they're not focused on that. So I'm glad that this discussion and programs like Shark Tank bring that to light. So delighted to know them. The next thing, Dean, I wanted to explore, you were talking early on about one of your big shifts is from a project mentality to a product mentality. I happen to be a certified PMP myself. I've led PMO offices throughout my career, and I do know that is not an easy transition. There's one thing about that you can talk about it from a process perspective, from a methodology perspective, but people's mindsets still operate in that workflow of what happens in a project. So walk us through a little bit more of how you're helping evolve that culture, and what does a culture of a product type delivery mean to you? How have you helped the team come along with that? And maybe what did you have to change to make that happen? I mean, did you change project reviews and the way that they're delivered and those kind of things? But how did you really start to build that into the DNA? I know it's still part of your journey, but what's sort of the vision that you have to get there?
Sure. What a great question, because it is very difficult to go from a project-oriented perspective into the philosophy of agile DevSecOps with product category management. So Why was it so important for us to do? The fact of the matter is that we had so many ongoing products that with these projects, it seemed that there was just project phase 1, project phase 2, project phase 3, and they just kept going. Well, if you're doing that, does that really fit the definition of a project where there's a definitive start and a definitive stop? And in our case, we decided and analyzed that it really wasn't. The fact of the matter is that we kept these products moving forward based on just a yearly arbitrary time frame. So the delivery of business value was not so important in the projects. It was just starting and stopping. So now in products, what you have is a focus on the business value and what the team has delivered for you in the most recent quarter or in the most recent sprint. So instead of waiting at the end for this monolithic enterprise application system that's tightly coupled and integrated all over the place, you can ask, why didn't I get this tool at the end of 3 months? There's a whole nother aspect of the cultural shift from projects to products where 30, 60, and 90-day milestones need to be incorporated into the thinking. Every quarter, we are going to have delivery. And if we don't, then the business value has not been given that's needed. We are looking right now at differentiating between 2 and 3 week sprints. And at the end of each sprint, something has to be delivered. You have to have some measurable value. And that provides the ability to either adjust or keep going in the right direction. You want to adjust if you're not getting what the business person, the business recipients thought was what you were delivering. So instead of just waiting till the end of the year and then calling it a failure, you adjust on the spot. That is what we're trying to inculcate in these new product teams. And not only that, in a project management organization, you're successful when you finish that project and it's done and you move on to the next. One of the things about product ownership is a continual accountability and ownership of what you are operating and maintaining. And that is more true to what we're doing because the Patent and Trademark Office has been around for over 200 years. We're going to be around for another 200 more. And what we need to do is make sure that we're delivering value to those business users every quarter, every day, in fact.
Well, thank you. That makes a really crystal clear differentiate between them, and especially about the ownership beyond, the project is over, you still own it. So it's an important differentiation. So we've gotten just a whole screen of questions. You really inspired everyone to want to know more, so I'm going to get through as many of them as we can. So Lisa, welcome back. She's been with us in many sessions. Would like to know, what was the inspiration to embark on this major transformation, or who were the initial leaders, and what really lit the match to be able to start down this journey?
That's a great question because I've only been there about 15 months now, and I was brought in as the result of a failure. So one of the things that I'm trying to teach throughout the cultural shift is failure can be very constructive if you learn from the failure and don't make the same mistakes. But failure is necessary in order to progress. And the failure that occurred was one of the major applications for patents actually went down and was not able to be brought back up in operation for a little over a week. And that caused a lot of consternation, as you can well imagine. People are depending upon folks to get the decisions made on patents, whether or not they're awarded or rejected. And because of that week-long non-operational application, they couldn't do the job. And you can measure that in terms of all 8,000 people couldn't do their job for a week. That is a huge failure. And because of that, we have taken steps now that will never happen again. Failover and resiliency has to become part and parcel to stabilization efforts and security efforts. So that's what caused the initial insight into the fact, hey, we have to do things a little differently here. And because of that, we have now embarked on this agile DevSecOps with product management. I could go on forever.
Well, we'll save a little bit of that after that because you might need to use that for some of the next questions. Both David and John are interested in having you share a little bit more about the types of initiatives that you're using AI or augmented or artificial intelligence, machine learning, and RPA in. David added on to that, how are you measuring the business value of bringing that type of automation into whatever processes or products that you're delivering that in?
Sure. I did not give RPA enough airtime. Robotic process automation seems to be the ability to automate very mundane tasks to the point that if you're administrative and clerical in their nature, why are you bothering using all your brain power trying to solve things that have already been solved? So my challenge to everyone was, look, if you got a process that takes 10 steps and you're just checking off the boxes on the 10 steps, everything, that's not enough to be successful. You need to show me how 3 to 6 to 7 of those tasks can be automated to the point where not only are you saving time in your checklist, but you're actually putting more into the quality review. Is this even necessary to do? If you could take it off and give it to a robot to complete the task, why wouldn't you? In essence, we've done a lot of work at looking and analyzing on the financial administration, the HR administration, travel and expense administration. And we're trying to take all of those processes and build up a center of excellence in robotic process automation to the point where we have a goal to put 40 unattended bots into operations by the end of this calendar year. We've already done 4 of those automated bots. They're unattended, but I believe that you need to have a man in the loop or a woman in the loop to ensure that the robot is doing what it's supposed to be doing. So we do have the interface there. I think they're just an extension of our own thoughtfulness in doing administrative and clerical duties. And so we have created that center of excellence, and we are moving forward with our RPA efforts. And I think there was a second part of the question, but I forget it now. I apologize.
That's okay. So in addition to RPA, a little more insight on where AI or machine learning is used, and how are you measuring the business value that's delivered from using those advanced automations?
Yes. Well, we have been very fortunate to have the competence involved with our back-end guys. I can't believe that the average tenure of our 13,000 employees with the USPTO is somewhere on the order of 21 years. What? Think about that. I mean, that's both good and bad. I mean, people really know their job. They're very knowledgeable and competent. But then changing their ways of doing might be a little more difficult because they know what they're doing. We just need to turn it up a little. And so because of that, what we've done is try to take those mundane and routine things and get them to think about other things. For example, we're trying to ensure that classification of patents can be more quality and quicker. There is an art to classifying things. Some people call, the old thing about you say potato, I say patata. But, in essence, it's still something to eat. Is it a vegetable or a fruit? No. Think about that. That's hard to classify. And so we're trying to create algorithms which give the examiner the ability to actually do a lot of decision making instead of the routine, mundane things. And so because of that, we've realized that in our natural language processing, we really do need to develop different machines for different art units. In other words, a oil or mechanical engine shop and so forth may have a different machine algorithm than a biomedical device that's used in surgical operations. All right? They both could be using the same words in English, but they mean totally different things, and they're classified in totally different respects. So because of that, we have to ensure that we're creating the right corpus of knowledge in machine learning for the right art unit. There are over 2,800 art units within the patent's corpus of knowledge. So it's really tough when you think about all the algorithms that need to be created. But we're taking on that challenge, and we're actually helping the examiners to make their days more productive. By the way, if you didn't know it, we are not taxpayer funded. We are fee funded. And therefore, we have an obligation to make sure our applicants and our fee payers are getting the most for their money. And we're trying to do that by decreasing the speed and decreasing the cost and increasing the quality. That is the business side of the USPTO. So that's how we're using AI and machine learning. Whew.
Well, that is exciting, and it's also interesting to note that you're fee-funded. I'm guessing that probably most people on the call did not know that, and that is a whole other level of responsibility for delivering value. And Jamie, we have time for just one more question. So I am going to make it a fun one because I would like us to end on that note. So you've been with the group 15 months now. You had the opportunity to have this wonderful celebration of 10 million patents come about. I am interested personally to know which patent that you find most intriguing, most interesting, something that you really resonate with, or conversely, a stat that you might get from analytics of which one is still in the greatest use today. So you either get a trivia question or a personal question. You can decide which one you'd like to take.
So I am going to answer in a dual way. The most, the thing that really got me as far as history, because I am a history buff, the fact is that George Washington signed the first patent, and it was all about potash. I mean, think about it. We are an agrarian nation. That's our history. That's our roots. And what's the first patent? It's for agriculture. It's for making things grow better. So I thought that was really great. But the thing that's most interesting to me, and I can't wait till the courts decide it, I'm not able to comment it on other than describing what happened. We have 2 patents right now that have been submitted supposedly by an artificial intelligence machine. And I think whoever actually pushed the buttons and did the work submitted that because they want the courts to decide whether or not a patent can be submitted by a machine. Right now, it really does take a person to submit a patent. And so, you know, much like a tool or something, this something was submitted a patent supposedly through AI. And I think that's a very fascinating thing, and that's currently the state of the art. So that's very interesting. The USPTO has actually put out for public comment the questions and answers around artificial intelligence, because we really do want to know what the policy should or could be, and so that we take those positions and we make sure Congress is aware of all the different policy decisions that need to be made for intellectual property. It's just a fascinating thing to me.
Well, not many of us have that type of thing going on in our own environments from a day-to-day basis, and you couldn't have chosen a better answer than that, Jamie. That's really enlightening, and I know that we'll all look forward to seeing the outcome of that and really whether or not, Hollywood and everything comes to life in real life when we're talking about whether or not the direction that's decided on this. So we will all stay tuned to that. On that note, I really want to thank Jamie, not only you, but the entire USPTO team. It took an effort from several individuals on the team to bring this together, to make this a reality, to bring you and I together, and to make sure that we could share this information with our entire global base. So I thank you for that very sincerely. I also wanted to remind everybody about those resources out there. I hope you found that video was just as cool as I thought it was. Please do play it back, reshare it with your teams. It's available for you. Take a look at that Wall Street Journal article where you're sitting back and having a little bit more reading time than you may have in the past. This was done earlier, months ago, and you think about what does the vision look like now, what does it look like then versus now, and it will inspire some interesting conversation. And then, you always want something in your pocket when you're faced with some trivia or a dinner party conversation. I guarantee if you look at that commemoration and some of the things that came out about the 10 millimeter patent, you will have one of those things in your back pocket, as Jamie just did. So as Jamie, one thing I'll say is that when we had the dry run and it was you and the team and I were all together, I asked what was one of the key messages, and you said, well, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office were open and ready for business. You've certainly illustrated that today, and the volumes I'm excited to hear are going up, up, up. I do think that the economy that we're in with this spirit of innovation is one that we hope to see further reflected in your team, and I'm glad to know that automation and your journey to a product-based environment is going to do nothing but help you further advance that goal. So would you like to say a quick goodbye to our audience?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to all of you all out there. I really wish that everybody be safe and be healthy. Take care of you, your family, and your friends. Health is number one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and we echo that as well, and we hope that you'll stay home, remain healthy, and join us back tomorrow and Friday for 2 more days of Shared Services and Outsourcing Week, America's online event. But for today, this now concludes this day and this session. We look forward to welcoming you back to our digital event tomorrow. Good day to everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your day or evening or morning wherever you are. Thank you, and take care.